the class. So what are we going to discuss today is something which we discussed last time, that we said that, when we look at money demand that is out there, when you look at money demand is also called liquidity preference. And we said that there are three reasons. One is your transactionary reason, another one is your precautionary reason, and the third one is your speculative reason, right? We said this, that transaction plus precautionary demand for money, we call it LP1. Speculative demand, we call it LP2. And LP1 plus LP2 is your total demand for money or liquidity preference. And we said this, that transaction plus precautionary demand for money का दूसरा नाम होता है, another name for this is called active balances, while LP2 is your idle balances. And we said also this, that active plus idle balances makes up your total demand. Active balances is very inelastic, right? Idle balances is elastic. And we said this, that the total demand will be a sum of active plus idle balances. And we came up with a demand curve, which is a downward sloping demand curve, where we said that if interest rate is on my y-axis, interest rate is your opportunity cost, and this is your quantity of money. So we said this, that when the interest rates go down, for example, from R0 to R1, when the interest rate goes down, the quantity of money goes up from Q0 to Q1. And we said this very simply because when the interest rate goes down, the opportunity cost of holding money goes down, and people will be holding more money balances. They can hold more money balances, be it because of transactionary reason, precautionary reason, speculative reason, and all that. Another thing I want to talk about very quickly, just to re-establish our sort of concept, that we can say demand for money can go up because of two reasons. For example, if GDP goes up, then we said this, that transactionary demand for money can go up. Transactional demand can go up because of that. Why? Because when GDP goes up, people will have more income, and when people have more income, automatically they will have more ability to buy. And if they have more ability to buy, you can argue this, that they will undertake more transaction, and therefore your transaction demand for money can go up. And the way we draw that diagram, by the way, the way I'm going to draw that diagram of demand going up will be something like this. Demand was previously LP naught, now will become LP1. In other words, the shift will be not a non-parallel shift. Nietzsche say the lower part of the diagram will become flat. Something which I'm going to explain in a later diagram, but the demand will go up like this. Another reason why demand for money can go up. So one first reason we said is that demand for money can go up because GDP can go up. If income go up or GDP go up, people have more income, they'll undertake more transactions, and therefore transaction demand for money may go up. Similarly, if frequency of payment go up, in fact, frequency of payment goes down, right? Then also you'll see transactionary demand will go up. And that also will be shown through a shift to the right of this kind. So two things that can make my demand curve to shift to the right. We said more income or less frequency of payment. So something like this will happen. Okay. So we discussed this last time, that there are three reasons why people are demanding money. One is called transactionary precautionary reason, where we have an inelastic demand, versus precautionary versus speculative, where we have elastic demand because you are now keeping balances for buying let's say properties or financial assets and so on and so forth. Now, money supply, on the other hand, we didn't draw the diagram for money supply, but money supply, we say, we draw this money supply. We say money supply is kind of like fixed. Why is it fixed? It's fixed by the government. And it looks something like this. Your money supply diagram may look like this one. So money supply is fixed like this. And we say this, that if the government decides to, for example, tomorrow, like lower reserve ratio, then bank lending goes up, then money supply will go up. So something like this will happen if the government decides to, let's say, lower reserve ratio. Banks will be lending more money, and money supply will go up, and money supply will go up like this. Or, for example, government decides to, like government decides to government buys bonds. If the government buys bonds, then bonds will be coming to them, and money supply can also go up. So something like this can happen, right? So money supply is kind of like perfectly inelastic and fixed by the government. Money demand is like downward sloping, something like this, and it has a particular kind of a shift, which I'm going to talk about in a later discussion. So money supply and money demand can now be brought together to discuss something called money market equilibrium. So today's discussion, I'm going to sort of now talk about money market equilibrium. In a money market equilibrium, we look at demand and supply for money, and we will come up with equilibrium interest rate. Before I move on to talk about that, is there any question, guys? Anyone who has a question about anything? If you guys have any question, then ask me right now. Otherwise, we are sorted. We are good to go. We are good to discuss. We can move on. Are we good to move on? Awesome. Awesome, guys. So let's look at money market equilibrium. So हमने एक तरफ बनाएंगे money demand, and then we'll plot money supply. So if I tell you guys this, that this is my interest rates, okay, and this is my quantity of money, and I'm saying this money demand is like this, perfectly elastic. This is my money, this is my money supply, which is perfectly elastic. Government decides to print, or government decides to fix the money supply. Anusha, yes. You have a question, Anusha? You can ask me. I can wait for 2 minutes and answer your question quickly. What's your question, Anisha? Batao, bolo. Okay, it's okay. Let's move on. Okay, so guys, money supply is perfectly inelastic, and money demand is like this. Okay, I'm saying money demand is your liquidity preference. Let's call it LP naught. Okay, now, Fatma, let me take this question in 1 minute. Now I'm saying this, that where money demand and money supply meet, there is an interest rate like R naught. Okay, so let's say R naught is like this. Now, guys, what happens is this, that we call where money demand, money supply meet, we call this as at A, we have what we call an equilibrium interest rates. This is an equilibrium interest rate in the market. We say with demand for money, LP naught, demand for money meets money supply, that will be your equilibrium interest rate. Now, why is this called an equilibrium? Because even if equilibrium means there is no tendency for interest rate to change. If, for example, equilibrium is R naught, but the government somehow sets an interest rate like R1, then we call R1 as an equilibrium interest rate? And the answer is no. R1 is not an equilibrium interest rate. And the reason why R1 is not an equilibrium interest rate is simply because at R1, you can see this, that the money supply is at point X, money demand is at point Y, which means money supply is more than money demand. If money supply is more than money demand, this basically means, let's say at R1, I'm saying money supply is greater than money demand. And if money supply is more than money demand, then people have a lot more money than they're demanding, right? So, for example, I have money and I'll be like, you know what, I have money, but I don't have any use for it. And nobody is wanting to take a loan as well, because everyone has money. There is what we call, in this case, excess liquidity. There's a lot of liquidity here in the market. People have a lot of money, so there's a lot of liquidity. And because of that liquidity or excess money that people have, one would argue this, that people may want to give loans, but nobody is wanting to take a loan because interest rates are too high. There will be what we call a downward pressure on interest rates, because interest rates bahut upar hai, people are not wanting to take a loan. Too many people have cash, but nobody wanting to demand, nobody is demanding the cash, and therefore interest rates will fall till we reach R naught, which is equilibrium. At R naught, money supply is equal to money demand, and therefore there is no disequilibrium whatsoever. Similarly, look at this, guys. If you are at R2, okay, if you're at R2, one could argue this money supply is at point F, but money demand is point F, money supply is point G. So one could argue this at R2, money demand is more than money supply. In such a case, when money demand is more than money supply, what will we do? And the answer is very simple. At R2, if money demand is greater than money supply, we are looking at a case of uh, more people wanting or demanding money than money supply. And the reason is very simple. जब interest rate बहुत नीचे हो जाएंगे, a lot more people will be wanting to demand money. But the problem that happens is that if the interest rates are too low, there's more demand than supply. There will become an upward pressure on. There will be an upward pressure on interest rates. So the interest rates will start to rise because too much demand out there than supply. Interest rates will go up till we reach R naught, where again ms equals md. So what we say is this, that uh, the equilibrium happens when ms equals md, and if ms is greater than md, then basically there will be an downward pressure on interest rate because prices will start to fall, and there will be a possibility when the ms is greater than md, the interest rate will fall till we come back to equilibrium. Similarly, if the interest rates are too low, then there will be a lot more people demanding money than supplying money, and demand is more than supply. There is a what we call, this is what we call a shortage of funds. People will start to ask for higher interest rates till we go to R naught. So that's why when money supply equals money demand, we call it a money market equilibrium. Are we good? Any questions? Fatma said only a change in transactional demand causes LP to shift. Well, Fatma, many things can change demand for money. I just gave the two examples that we covered yesterday, which was frequency of payment and GDP. But there are other factors that can also change your demand for money. Arvind, you're saying, let me explain R1 point again. See, Arvind, let me just zoom this diagram. So, Arvind, I'm saying this, that if you are, for example, government sets the interest rate too high, R1, not many people will be wanting to take a loan because they'll be like, yeah, interest rates are so high, I'm not going to borrow money. So, demand for money is very low, supply for money is very high. People have money, but nobody wanting to take loans from them. This excess liquidity or surplus of cash means people will be like, you know what, let's start to lower our cash to loan to people, and that's where there will be a downward pressure on interest rates till we come back to equilibrium at R naught. At R naught, there is neither a surplus nor there is neither a surplus nor shortage, and therefore you come back to an equilibrium. Okay, awesome. Now this is an important discussion because we are saying this, the market equilibrium happens at R naught. Now I'm going to use this discussion. This is basically going to now bring us to the next discussion, which is an important discussion, which is basically um, why is, let's write this, why is AD curve downward sloping? Do you guys remember this? Why is AD curve downward sloping? In AS, we learned AD curve is downward sloping because of income effect. Okay, quickly recapping income effect. Income effect simply used to say this, that if the price level goes down, your purchasing power goes up. Purchasing power goes up, and that will make your consumption to go up, and that basically means your GDP goes up. Okay. दूसरा क्या था? Substitution effect. Substitution effect used to say this, that when the price level goes down, your exports become cheaper, imports become expensive, causing your X minus M to go up, and therefore your GDP goes up. The third effect is what I'm going to discuss today, which is the focus of today's discussion. That is called the interest rate effect. Okay, so I'm going to talk about interest rate effect. That's the focus of today's discussion, the interest rate effect. Okay, before I talk about that interest rate effect, do you guys have any question? Any question that you guys want to ask me? No? Are we going to move on? So when we look at interest rate effect, basically we are trying to say this, that guys, I'm going to make two diagrams. I want everyone, all of us to make the two diagrams together. So that will basically make it easier. एक तरफ हम बनाएंगे एडी कर्व का डायग्राम, दूसरी तरफ हम बनाएंगे अपना, so this is my AD curve diagram, and this is my money market diagram. Okay, so your AD curve is downward sloping, so I'm going to make AD curve like this, downward sloping. Okay, and I'm going to make this is your real GDP, and this is your price level, this is your interest rate, and this is your quantity of money. Okay. Now we'll follow step by step what will happen. एक काम ये भी करते हैं, what we'll also do is that we will try to make our money supply, and we will also try to make our money demand. And let's say right now interest rate is R0. Now guys, what if I tell you that there is a rise in price level? What if inflation, महंगाई बढ़ जाए, there is a rise in price level? Let's call this step number one. A rise in price level will make people's purchasing power to go down. Suddenly people have money, and that money is unable to make them buy the same amount of goods and services. And the reason is because the prices have gone up and their incomes are now not sufficient enough to buy the goods and services that they were buying before. To undertake the same amount of goods and services, so to undertake the same amount or same transactions, so same value of goods and services, the individuals will now be demanding more money. So when the price level go up, what happens is this, that the demand for money goes up. And we say this, the demand for money goes up. Let me call this, in fact, I should write LP not here, because remember they become together afterwards. So let's say if LP not, say we go to LP1. So we say this, when the price level goes up, right, I'm saying this, that suddenly people's purchasing power is going down. They will be requiring more money to undertake the same amount of transactions. And because of that, there is a possibility that results in the demand for money to go up, that results in interest rates to go up. So because price level went up, the demand for money went up. So higher price level resulted in LP to rise, or demand for money to go up, which causes the interest rate to go up. As you can see, interest rate will go up. So this is number 2. This is number 3. When the interest rate went up, basically, what will happen, guys, if the interest rate goes up? Well, we learned from our discussion earlier that when the interest rate goes up, the cost of borrowing goes up. The incentive to save, the cost of borrowing goes up, the incentive to save goes up, and both of these factors will result in consumption to fall and investment to fall. Why? Because suddenly जब आपका price level बढ़ा, demand for money बढ़ी, because people are now wanting to undertake the same amount of goods and services. उनके पास पैसे कम है, they are demanding more money. But क्योंकि demand बढ़ने की वजह से interest rate बढ़ता है, that makes consumption and investment to fall, and consumption and investment will fall, your real GDP will fall. And so that's why you go from Y0 to Y1, which is number 4. And this explains why AD curve is downward sloping. So when the price level goes up, your demand for money goes up, causing interest rate to goes up, which in turn causes C to fall, I to fall, and therefore real GDP to fall. And that explains why AD curve is downward sloping due to interest rates. Do you guys get that? Does that make sense? Is it fairly straightforward? I can do the other case as well. Okay, what if price level गिर रहा होता? But before I do that, is everyone happy to hear the? Is there any question? Anusha, Daniel, anyone? Arvind, do you guys have questions? Fatima? No. Awesome, guys. Let me do the another case. Let me do okay. What if अगर price level गिर रहा होता? Let's just do the case of price level गिर रहा होता. What if price level was going down? Guys, अगर price level गिर रहा होता, so let's just quickly draw this case of price level going down. ताकि वो भी clear हो जाए. What if price level is going down? So price level is going down from 18 P0 to P1. A minute to copy. Anusha, I'll go back to it one more time. Just pay attention to this explanation, and then you can copy it as well. Okay, Anusha, what if your price level is going down? So what if price level is going down? Basically, we'll say this, that if this is my demand for money, LP naught, and this is money supply, right? Price level went down, then suddenly people will be like, you know what, purchasing power is going up. They do not require the same amount of money to undertake the transaction. Nobody wants to take a loan because their purchasing power is high. People will be demanding less money. Demand for money will fall from LP0 to LP1. जिसकी वजह से आपका interest rate will fall from, let's say, R0 to R1, and that fall of interest rate results in, so this is number one. Number two was demand for money going down. Okay, let me just zoom it so that it becomes better. Number three is this, interest rate to go down. And when the interest rate goes down, we know this consumption will go up, investment will go up, and therefore GDP will go up. So you go from Y0 to Y1. I'm sorry, you go from Y0 to Y1. So GDP goes up. So that explains this idea that when a lower price level can make the demand for money to go down, but a higher price level, we go back to the same there, when the price level goes up, demand for money goes up, and because of that, you will see the interest rate to go up, and therefore the GDP to go down. Are we good? Is there any question before we wrap it up?